They broke you long before you even knew you were broken. It wasn't the insult, it wasn't the betrayal, it wasn't even the silence they left you in afterward. It was that single moment when your chest tightened, when your throat locked, when you felt heat rush to your face and you couldn't stop it. That was the moment they owned you. You think you were standing there free, but you weren't. You were a puppet with strings you never knew were attached. They didn't raise their voice. They didn't have to. They pressed a button inside you, and you reacted. That was the moment they won. And that is the moment you lost. You didn't even understand what was taken from you because it wasn't your reputation, it wasn't your pride, it was your control. And when your control is gone, everything else is already gone. That is the quiet execution of the soul. Not when someone hits you, not when they abandon you, not when they laugh at you. It's when they make you feel, and you can't stop showing it. You think weakness is trembling hands, a cracking voice, tears sliding down your cheeks in front of people who will never understand. But weakness doesn't look like weakness. It hides. It's invisible. It starts the second you let someone crawl inside your chest and touch a nerve you thought was hidden. It's that flicker in your eyes, that jaw that clenches a second too fast, that breath you didn't realize you just sucked in. You thought you were quiet, but your silence screamed. You thought you were strong, but your body confessed what your mouth never did. That's the trap. That's the betrayal. Not to them, but to yourself. And it's always the beginning of loss. I've watched rooms turn cold because one person couldn't hold themselves together. A man mocked in public, a woman overlooked in silence, a friend dismissed with a smirk. And instead of holding, they spilled. Their words poured out, their voice shook, their temper rose, their pain became visible. They thought they were defending themselves, but they weren't. They were bleeding. They were handing over their dignity, their stability, their presence. Every word they said was a confession they didn't mean to give. They weren't proving strength. They were advertising how easily they could be moved. You never defend yourself from power. You defend yourself from exposure. And exposure always comes before collapse. And here's the truth nobody tells you. The world doesn't care if your reaction was justified. It doesn't care if they were wrong and you were right. The world doesn't care about fairness. The only thing that matters is that you reacted. Because the moment you reacted, you confessed. You told them without words that they mattered, that they reached you, that they had the power to shift your state. You told them they had access to your center, to your peace, to your balance. And once someone knows where the switchboard is, once they see the buttons that move you, they will press them again, and again, and again. And you will wonder why you're always exhausted, always defending, always proving, always drowning. It's because you handed over the controls and they never plan on giving them back. You don't lose power when you stay silent. You lose it when you break. But the great lie is that breaking looks like bravery. They told you that honesty is power. They told you that expressing pain is strength. They told you that your outrage, your tears, your anger makes you authentic. And maybe it makes you authentic. But authenticity isn't strength. In power, authenticity is irrelevant. In survival, it is suicidal. What matters is control. And the one thing emotion guarantees is that you no longer have it. The person who moves first loses. The person who flinches first submits. The one who reacts obeys. They insult you, and you rush to explain. They ignore you, and you chase to be seen. They laugh at you in front of others, and you throw your rage back like fire. You think you're proving you won't be disrespected. But what you're really proving is that their opinion governs your existence. You told them, louder than words, that they matter more than your balance. That is the real humiliation. Not the insult, but your desperate need to show it touched you. The cruel reality is that people don't destroy you with fists. They destroy you with reactions. They don't stab you with knives. They stab you with moments you can't control. The insult isn't the weapon. The weapon is your rage. The silence isn't the betrayal. The betrayal is your panic. The humiliation isn't their words. It's the fact that you revealed yourself to them, naked and trembling, without ever realizing you were doing it. That's the battlefield nobody warns you about. Not the stage where enemies shout, but the quiet corner where they whisper something designed to make you twitch. And if you twitch, it's over. Because the second they know how to move you, they don't have to fight you. You'll destroy yourself for them. I've lived it. I've felt the humiliation burn like acid inside me. Someone dismisses you in front of a crowd, and you snap. You think you're saving yourself. But later, when the silence of the night comes, you lie there replaying every second, and you know. You weren't powerful. You were exposed. You showed them everything they needed to know. How much you cared, how much you feared, how much they could control. And the worst part isn't them. It's you. It's the ache in your chest that whispers, I gave it away. I gave everything away. And no apology, no victory, no explanation ever erases the truth of that moment. Do you want to know what true danger looks like? It isn't the man screaming. It isn't the woman raging. It's the one who doesn't move. It's the one who can be mocked, dismissed, insulted, ignored, and yet their eyes stay calm, their face unreadable, their breath steady. That silence terrifies people. That stillness unnerves entire rooms. Because when everyone is shouting and you remain unmoved, they start wondering what you know that they don't. They start chasing your reaction, trying to provoke you, trying harder and harder to see you break. And the longer you don't break, the weaker they look. Because the real game is not who shouts loudest, but who refuses to show the wound. And the person who refuses to reveal the wound becomes the one everyone fears. This isn't about coldness. It isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about command. It's about the sacred kind of self-control that understands every reaction is a leak, every defense is a confession, every outburst is an obituary of your own strength. You don't win by fighting louder. You win by staying still. You don't dominate by speaking first. You dominate by saying nothing until they collapse under the weight of their own noise. The most dangerous presence in any room is not the one who rages. It's the one who doesn't flinch. And I learned the hardest truth of all. Silence doesn't protect you because it hides your emotions. Silence protects you because it starves your enemies of what they need most, your reaction. Without your reaction, they cannot feed. Without your reaction, they cannot control. Without your reaction, they cannot win. That is why the war is not out there in their words. The war is in here, in the 5 seconds after you feel the sting. The storm rises. The blood boils. The chest tightens. And that is the battlefield. The decision you make in those 5 seconds will determine if you walk away with your dignity intact or if you hand it over like a gift to the person who wanted nothing more than to watch you bleed. Because here's the cruelest twist. They never cared about the insult, about the argument, about the lie they told. They cared only about this. Will you react? Will you betray yourself? Will you show them your weakness? If you do, they've won. And they'll keep winning, because they now know exactly where to strike. They now know exactly how to move you. And they will. Every time. Until you finally learn the rule that should have been carved into your bones from the beginning. Control begins where reaction ends. You don't notice how predictable you are until someone turns your reactions into a mirror that humiliates you. The truth is, most of your enemies don't need to invent strategies. They just wait. They wait for you to crack because they know you will. Someone cuts you off mid-sentence, and you defend yourself. Someone rolls their eyes, and you demand respect. Someone ignores you, and you beg to be seen. You call it standing up for yourself, but they call it entertainment. Because when you react, you are not defending. You are performing. They get to sit back and watch you play the part they wrote for you. and you don't even realize the script was never yours. That's how they own you. That's how they reduce you. They poke, you flinch. They press, you break. You think it's a conversation, but it's not. It's a rehearsal they've run 1,000 times in their head, and you're the only one who didn't realize you were cast in their play. The worst part is not the reaction itself, but what comes after. The sinking feeling when you know you gave them something they didn't deserve. That familiar shame that crawls back into your chest when you replay what happened. The sting is not the insult. It's the way you showed them how deeply it landed. And deep down, you know they took something from you. Not your words, not your pride, not even your reputation. They took your balance. They made you stumble, and now you can't stop replaying the way you fell. And the more you replay it, the more you realize it was never about them. It was about you. It was about the fact that you still haven't learned to keep yourself untouchable. I've seen entire lives ruined by a single moment of emotional collapse. A man in a meeting, disrespected in front of his peers, raising his voice to prove his worth. The room turned against him, not because he was wrong, but because he showed that he could be moved. A woman accused of something she didn't do, pouring out her story, desperate to clear her name. Her truth didn't matter. What mattered was how much they saw she needed to be believed. And once people know you need to be believed, they can control you. They know they can twist you, push you, bait you. Not because you are weak, but because you showed them you care. That's the trap. They don't even need to be right. They just need to know you will fight to prove that they're wrong. And in that moment, you're already enslaved. The illusion is that reaction makes you strong. They say, if someone insults you, clap back. They say, if someone disrespects you, demand respect. They say, never let anyone walk over you. But here's the darker truth. The more you fight, the more you lose. Because every reaction, every defense, every outburst shows them one thing. You are reachable. They can touch you. They can move you. And the moment they know that, they will never stop. Because they've just discovered the strings, and you will spend your life dancing to their rhythm. They don't insult you because they hate you. They insult you to see if you will dance. They don't ignore you because they forgot you. They ignore you to see if you will chase. They don't mock you because they think less of you. They mock you because they want to know if you will bleed in public. They don't care about the words. They care about the reaction. And once they have it, they don't even need to destroy you. You'll destroy yourself. You'll spend nights replaying what you should have said. You'll spend days trying to prove what you meant. You'll spend years trying to make sure no one misunderstands you again. And all that time, they are silent, calm, untouched, because the game was never about them. It was always about you. And you need to understand this. People don't remember the insult. They remember how you reacted to it. They don't remember the accusation. They remember the desperation in your voice when you try to clear your name. They don't remember the dismissal. They remember the way your eyes flickered with panic when you realized you were invisible. The memory of your reaction burns longer than the moment itself. And that is why reaction is death. Not because it shows truth, but because it shows fear. And fear is always blood in the water. Let me tell you something brutal. They don't respect you when you explain yourself. They pity you. They don't admire you when you rage. They laugh at you. They don't value your tears. They store them. They record the exact moment you broke, not because they need it now, but because they know they will need it later. And when the right moment comes, they will replay it against you. Every explanation, every burst of anger, every trembling confession, it all becomes data. They don't see you as strong. They see you as a system to be studied. They know what triggers you. They know what calms you. They know what makes you panic. And once they know those things, they can run you like a program. Predictable, controllable, breakable. This is why silence terrifies people. Because silence gives them nothing to study, nothing to record, nothing to use. They can't map you if you don't react. They can't decode you if you give them nothing. And that's when the power shifts. That's when they start unraveling. Not because you struck them, but because they can't read you. People don't fear the loud. They fear the unknown. And silence, stillness, detachment, they make you unknown. They make you untouchable. They make you dangerous in a way that words never will. But here's the paradox. Silence hurts more than rage. It's harder, because when you're insulted, your body screams to react. When you are dismissed, your chest aches to explain. When you are mocked, your throat burns to defend. Staying still feels like suffocating. But that suffocation is the price of power. Because if you can sit in that storm without letting it spill, you win. Not just over them, but over yourself. The real enemy was never the person in front of you. The real enemy was the part of you that believed you had to react. The part of you that believed you had to defend. The part of you that still thought dignity could be won through explanation. Once you kill that part, you don't just win the room. You win yourself back. And that's the secret nobody told you. They said, be honest, be open, be vulnerable. But they never told you what it costs. Openness is a map. Vulnerability is an instruction manual. Honesty is a broadcast signal. And the people who smile and nod when you share, they aren't always listening to support you. They're listening to study you. They're writing down your pain. They're memorizing your fears. They're collecting your weaknesses. And when the day comes, they will use it. Not because they want to understand you, but because they want to control you. And the easiest person to control is the one who reacts. The one who explains. The one who bleeds in public. That's why they keep provoking you. Not because they hate you, but because your reactions are a gift. You are feeding them the blueprint of your soul every time you break. You have to stop feeding them. You have to starve them. You have to give them nothing but your silence, your stillness, your unreadable face. Because when you stop giving, they stop winning. And that's when they panic. That's when they spiral. That's when the world turns against them. Not because you struck them, but because you refuse to be struck. And in that refusal, you finally take back the control you've been handing away all your life. The first lesson in control is not learning how to fight harder. It is learning how not to fight at all. Your instinct tells you to strike, to shout, to prove, to explain, but instincts are traitors. They betray you faster than any enemy could. The real power comes in those seconds where your instincts scream and you silence them. You think silence is passive, but silence is war. Stillness is strategy. To stay quiet when you're burning inside is the greatest act of domination, because you are not just mastering them, you are mastering yourself. And until you master yourself, you will never master anyone else. The world whispers lies to you every day. They say what you feel. They say, don't bottle it up. They say, your truth will set you free. But truth is a chain when you give it away. Every confession is a map. Every explanation is a signal. Every burst of rage is a confession of where you are weak. They tell you vulnerability is courage. But courage doesn't get you respected. It gets you dissected. You think someone will honor your pain. But pain is not honored in this world. Pain is studied, stored, and weaponized. You hand it to them thinking you've been brave, and later you'll see it used against you. That is not courage. That is surrender dressed in sweet words. You want to know what real courage looks like? It looks like the man who feels rage boil inside him, but sits still. It looks like the woman who feels shame choke her, but doesn't open her mouth. It looks like the one who trembles on the inside, but gives no tremor on the outside. Courage is control. Courage is the art of bleeding in silence. Courage is showing nothing when you feel everything. Because when they cannot read you, they cannot touch you. And when they cannot touch you, they fear you. But how do you get there? How do you train yourself to stay silent when everything in you is screaming to react? The first weapon is delay. Always wait. When a sting hits, freeze. Don't let your body move. Don't let your mouth open. Don't let your breath betray you. Most people destroy themselves in the first 5 seconds. The first flinch, the first twitch, the first word, that's when it all collapses. But if you can delay, if you can ride out the storm inside your chest, you win. Because emotion is a wave. It feels infinite, but it breaks. If you can sit still long enough, the fire dies down. The storm passes. The silence returns. And once the silence returns, you are in control again. That is the battlefield. Those 5 seconds of delay. Lose them, and you lose everything. Own them, and the world cannot touch you. The second weapon is observation. Track your triggers. Know them better than anyone else. Who makes you flinch? Who makes you bristle? What words pierce your chest like knives? What gestures set your blood boiling? Don't run from them. Don't deny them. Write them down. Memorize them. Because every trigger is a door someone else can use to enter your mind. And if you know where the doors are, you can guard them. When the insult comes, you won't be surprised. When the dismissal comes, you won't panic. When the silence falls, you won't chase. You'll see it, you'll recognize it, and you'll remain still. Because you've already trained yourself to expect it. The weak are shocked by their emotions. The strong know them by name. And knowledge is armor. The third weapon is neutrality. Practice a face that tells nothing. No twitch, no dart of the eyes, no forced smile, just stillness. You are not ignoring them. You are absorbing without leaking. You are letting the storm crash against glass while you remain untouchable behind it. And when people search your face for answers, for weakness, for signs, they will see only themselves reflected back. That reflection will drive them mad. Because when they cannot read you, they will invent stories. They will project. They will wonder. And in their wondering, they will reveal themselves. They will unravel, try to guess what you think, while you remain silent, still, unmoved. This is not repression. This is not numbness. This is command. Control over yourself precedes control over others. If you cannot master your own face, your own breath, your own reactions, you will never master the room. But once you do, you don't even have to speak to command. Your silence will speak louder than any words ever could. Your stillness will terrify them. Because the world has no defense against a person who cannot be moved. Do you see why manipulators push so hard? They insult you to see if you'll defend. They ignore you to see if you'll chase. They mock you to see if you'll break. They flirt with someone else, not to connect, but to test your need. They starve you of attention, not to forget you, but to see if you'll beg. These are not accidents. These are strategies, calculated moves to provoke you. Because if you react, they win. If you don't, they collapse. The entire game depends on whether you show your emotions or not. That's why the only true defense is detachment. Not because you don't feel, but because you don't let them see it. Not because you are cold, but because you are precise. Your feelings are your own. They are not for the world to weaponize. I watched someone try to corner me once. He thought he had me pinned. He hurled his words, his accusations, his distortions in front of crowd. He wanted a spectacle. He wanted me to break. And I gave him silence. I gave him stillness. I let his words echo unanswered. And the more he shouted, the more foolish he looked. Because the room wasn't watching me anymore. They were watching him unravel. They were watching his performance turn into desperation. And I never gave him what he came for. I never gave him my reaction. That was the day I learned respect is not built through justification. Respect is built through silence. People respect the one they cannot move. People respect the one they cannot decode. And here is the cruel irony. The more you explain, the less people respect you. The more you defend, the weaker you look. The more you reveal, the easier you're to dismiss. But the less you show, the more they project. The less you speak, the more they fear. The less you reveal, the more they respect. Because mystery is insulation. Ambiguity is a weapon. Silence is dominance. That is the Machiavellian rule of perception. Control the signals you emit, and you control the thoughts others create about you. You don't need to tell them who you are. You just need to let them guess. And their guessing will terrify them more than your truth ever could. So learn to wait. Learn to freeze. Learn to track your triggers. Learn to make your face a mirror. Learn to let silence stretch until it becomes unbearable. Because that is where power lives. Not in your words, not in your explanations, not in your outbursts. Power lives in stillness. Power lives in the refusal to react. Power lives in the gap between what you feel and what you show. And if you can master that gap, if you can protect that space, the world will never own you again. The predators of this world don't come at you with swords. They come at you with smiles, with whispers, with little pushes meant to test your edges. They aren't trying to destroy your mind. They are trying to reach your emotions, because your emotions are louder, messier, easier to expose. The mind can hide, it can analyze, it can retreat. But emotion bursts out like fire. It leaks from your voice, your eyes, your hands. It betrays you before you even know it's happening. That's why manipulators never debate you logically. They don't care about truth. They care about reaction. They provoke, they poke, they starve, they flatter, they ignore, they delay. Not to win an argument, but to study you, to see what makes you burn. Because once they know what makes you burn, they own the fire. Gaslighting is not about confusion. It's about control. They twist your reality, not because they believe their lies, but because they want to watch your panic. They want to see you scramble to prove what you know is true. The scramble is the point. Your desperation is the weapon. They don't need you to believe them. They just need to know you want to be believed. That need is the leash they tighten around your throat. Triangulation, love bombing, sudden silence, delayed replies. These are not accidents. They're strategies. Calculated moves designed to pull emotions out of you like strings from a puppet. And every time you respond, every time you chase, explain, rage, cry, they write another note in their playbook. They know how you work. And the more they know, the less you own yourself. Do you see why praise can be as dangerous as insult? Because praise isn't always affection. Sometimes it's currency. Sometimes it's a leash. They give you what you crave, then take it away. They give you attention, then starve you of it. And you chase. You chase it like a starving dog. Not because you need them, but because they taught your nervous system to depend on their reward. They train you like an addict. One compliment, one smile, one soft word, and now you're hooked. And the next time they withhold it, you feel yourself shrinking, panicking, begging for the next dose. That is not love. That is not respect. That is control. And control always begins with reaction. Anger. Oh, that's their favorite tool. Because the moment you raise your voice, you lose. The moment you explode, they get to lower their mask. They get to play the calm one, the victim, the reasonable voice. And you look unhinged. You look unstable. You look like proof of every story they will tell about you later. They don't humiliate you with their words. They humiliate you by letting you humiliate yourself. They wanted the crowd to see one thing: how easy it is to make you fall apart. And when you do, the trap is complete. They don't just own the moment. They own the narrative. You thought you were defending your dignity. You were destroying it. That's why silence is not passivity. It's a weapon. It's the only weapon they can't touch. Because when you refuse to react, the game collapses. They insult you, but the silence devours their words. They mock you, but the stillness eats the energy out of the room. They starve you of attention, but your calm presence makes them look desperate, not you. And the longer you hold it, the more they unravel. They wanted your breakdown, but they're the ones breaking. They wanted your confession, but they are the ones exposed. That is the reversal. That is the quiet violence of stillness. You need to understand how predators think. They don't want your mind. They want your nervous system. They want to see the twitch, the flinch, the crack. They want to know what hurts you, what drives you, what makes you beg. Because once they know those things, they never have to touch your mind again. They can play your body like an instrument. They can provoke you with silence, with attention, with rejection, with nothing more than a pause. They don't need to attack you. They just need to make you attack yourself. And you will, if you haven't learned a rule. Emotion is a signal, and signals are hunted. Every tear you shed, every tremor in your voice, every ounce of outrage, it's all data. They are not comforted by your openness. They are studying it. They are recording it. They're filing it away for the moment they need to use it. People say, your pain is your power. They say, your vulnerability makes you strong. No, that is a lie sold to keep you weak. Pain is not power. Pain is prey. Vulnerability is not strength. Vulnerability is the scent of blood in the water. You think they will respect it. They will not. They will use it. They will wait. And then, when you least expect it, they will strike exactly where you showed them to. That's why you have to stop thinking you're being brave when you open up in front of people who do not deserve it. You're not being brave. You're being dissected. You're not being bold. You're being mapped. Every word you give them is a thread. And once they have enough threads, they can unravel you piece by piece. You gave them your truth, and now they own your story. You gave them your fear, and now they know how to bend you. You gave them your guilt, and now they know how to crush you under it. Do you see it yet? Every explanation is a confession, even if it's true, especially if it's true, because truth doesn't free you in the hands of manipulators. It shackles you. That's why the most dangerous person in the room is not the one who shouts the loudest, but the one you cannot read. That's the one everyone fears. That's the one no one wants to cross. Because unpredictability terrifies people. Silence unnerves them. Mystery makes them panic. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to explain yourself. All you need to do is remain untouchable, unreadable, unmoved. Because the moment you stop leaking, the moment you stop confessing through your reactions, the entire world shifts. They can't control what they can't read. They can't manipulate what they don't understand. They can't provoke what doesn't move. Do you understand why detachment is not coldness? It's precision. It's survival. It's the only way to live without being owned. Because as long as your emotions control you, someone else can control them. And if someone else controls them, they control you. That is slavery. Emotional predictability is psychological slavery. But silence, stillness, detachment, that is freedom. That is the throne. That is what turns you into something people fear, not because you are violent, but because you are unreadable. And in this world, unreadable is untouchable. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of feeling. You still feel the sting of the insult, but you don't let surface. You still feel the rush of anger, but you don't let it command your voice. You still feel the ache of rejection, but you don't let it move your face. That is the art, to feel without flinching, to burn without showing smoke, to bleed without anyone knowing you're wounded. This is not numbness. This is precision, and it is the final weapon, the only weapon that cannot be taken from you. Because once you're no longer ruled by your emotions, no one else can rule you either. Most people are slaves, and they don't even know it. They wake up every day addicted to reactions, needing validation, needing attention, needing to be understood, needing to be liked. They beg for apologies. They crave praise. They panic if they are ignored. They spend their lives reacting as if every spark from the outside world must ignite a fire inside them. And that is why they are predictable. That is why they are programmable. That is why they are weak. A person who needs to be understood will always explain. A person who needs to be liked will always bend. A person who needs to be praised will always chase. And the one who needs is always the one who is owned. I stopped needing. I stopped explaining. I stopped chasing. That was the day the world shifted. That was the day I realized that power doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being unreadable. When people can't read you, they fear you. When they don't know what you want, they can't deny it. When they don't know what hurts you, they can't strike it. When they don't know what drives you, they can't control it. Mystery is insulation. Ambiguity is armor. Silence is command. That is what detachment gives you. Not emptiness, but control. Not loneliness, but presence. Not weakness, but power. Think about it. When you enter a room and everyone is shouting, the one who stays silent shifts the energy. When everyone is desperate to be understood, the one who says nothing becomes the most fascinating. When everyone is begging to be seen, the one who stands still becomes the most feared. People will chase your reaction like water in a desert. And when they can't get it, they unravel. They try harder. They speak more. They reveal themselves. And you remain still, untouched. They drown in their own noise while you hold your silence. That is what makes presence. That is what makes respect. Not your explanations. Not your defenses. Your silence. This doesn't mean you never reveal. It means you reveal only when it sharpens your position. A controlled leak. A calculated signal. A word dropped like a stone into a still pond, making ripples that last longer than 1,000 speeches. You don't reveal to be understood. You reveal to control perception. You don't reveal to release pain. You reveal to bend reality. That's the difference between the weak and the strong. The weak speak to unburden themselves. The strong speak to unsettle others. The weak reveal to be comforted. The strong reveal to be obeyed. You don't reveal to release. You reveal to rule. Do you see why unpredictability is armor? If they can predict you, they can program you. If they can't predict you, they can't touch you. Never react the same way twice. Never let them know what silence means, what stillness hides, what your words cost. Make them guess. Make them doubt. Make them chase a version of you that doesn't exist. Because in their guessing, they will exhaust themselves, and you will remain whole. Mystery terrifies people more than rage. Confusion makes them weaker than confrontation ever could. When they don't know who you are, when they don't know how you feel, when they don't know what you'll do, they can't fight you. They can't own you. They can't even stand near you without unraveling. That is why you must become unreadable. Because unreadable is unbreakable. You are not here to be relatable. Relatability is for the weak. Relatability is for the ones who need to be liked, who beg to be understood, who cannot stand the thought of being misjudged. Relatability is hunger, and hunger is always used against you. You are not here to be relatable. You are here to be untouchable. You are here to be the presence in the room that makes the loudest people go quiet. You are here to be the silence that makes them doubt themselves. You are here to be the stillness that unnerves them, the face they cannot read, the energy they cannot move. That is where fear begins. That is where respect lives. The world does not respect your tears. It documents them. The world does not respect your rage. It laughs at it. The world does not respect your openness. It studies it, stores it, and waits for the right moment to throw it back at you. Stop believing the lies. Stop believing that crying in front of enemies is power. Stop believing that shouting back is strength. Stop believing that honesty is always protection. It is not. It is a weakness dressed in noble clothing, and the predators know it. They wait for it. They crave it. Because the more you reveal, the easier you are to rule. The more you explain, the more you are dismissed. The more you react, the more you are controlled. So what do? You detach. You cut the strings. You stop chasing comfort. You stop needing attention. You stop begging to be seen. You stop explaining yourself. You sit in silence when they expect fire. You give them ice when they demand heat. You become the mirror that shows them only themselves. You let them collapse in their own confusion. And you remain still. That is the transformation. That is the throne. That is the final form of power. Not because you feel nothing, but because you're no longer ruled by what you feel. You still bleed, but you bleed in silence. You still rage, but you rage inside, where no one can touch it. You still ache, but you let the ache carve strength instead of spilling it into hands that will use it against you. Detachment turns pain into armor, rage into fuel, silence into dominance. And when you finally reach that place, you will see what I saw. You will see people push, and you won't move. You will see them provoke, and you will stay calm. You will see them bait, and you will not bite. And the silence will terrify them. The stillness will unnerve them. The mystery will destroy them, because they realize they cannot own you anymore. They cannot even touch you. And that realization is their collapse. You don't need to strike them. You don't need to fight them. They break themselves trying to break you. They destroy themselves trying to reach what you no longer give. That is power, not the loud kind, not the desperate kind, the silent kind, the untouchable kind, the kind that belongs only to the ones who have mastered themselves. Because in the end, power does not belong to the loud. It does not belong to the ones who cry the hardest, who rage the most, who explain the longest. Power belongs to the one who doesn't blink, to the one who doesn't flinch, to the one who feels everything and shows nothing, to the one who terrifies the world by remaining still when everyone else is falling apart. That is you once you choose it. That is what attachment makes you. Untouchable, unreadable, unmoved. And once you are unmoved, the world bends itself around you.